Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 23a. This is part 2, and it's with the words V'chachamim omrim Nema bid'Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Kamiflagi. I'm guessing it's probably about halfway down. The Mishnah teaches, and the rabbis say, the two judges that were chosen choose one more judge. The Gemara suggests, let us say that Rabbi Meir and the rabbis disagree with regard to what Rav Yehuda says that Rav says. To Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Ein Ela Eidim Chosmin Ala Shtal Ela Im Ken Yodin Mi Choisem Imahin. Rabbi Meir Leslei de Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Rabbonon Islahu de Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. As Rav Yehuda says, that Rav says witnesses do not sign a document unless they know who is signing with them. One does not sign a document unless he recognizes that those signing with him are fit to bear witness. According to the Gemara's suggestion, Rabbi Meir does not accept that which Rabbi Yehuda says that Rav says. Therefore, the litigants can choose the third judge, as the first two judges will be amenable to signing the court order without knowing the third judge, and the rabbis accept that which Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, and the judges would not sign the court order without themselves knowing the third judge. Lo, de kuli alma it lehu, de Rav Yehuda amarav, v'dat hadayanin, kuli alma lo pligi de ba'inan, ki pligi dat bale dinin. Rabbi Meir savar dat bale dinin, nami ba'inan. Rabbonon savri da'at hadayonin ba'inan da'at ba'ali dinin lo ba'inan. The Gemara rejects this suggestion. No, everyone accepts that which Rav Yehuda says, that Rav says, and everyone agrees with the premise that we need the consent of the first two judges for the appointment of the third. Rather, when they disagree, it is about whether the consent of the litigants is necessary. Rabbi Meir holds that we need the consent of the litigants as well, and the rabbis hold that although we need the consent of the other two judges, we do not need the consent of the litigants. Gufa, returning to the matter itself, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Eino Eidim Chois Min Ashtal, Tanya Nami Hachi, Kach Hayu Nikiya Da'as, Sheb'Yerushalayim Oisin, Lo Hayu Chois Min Al Ashtal, Ela Im Ken Yoidin, Mi Choisem Imohen, V'lo Hayu Yoishvin Bedin, Ela Im Ken Yoidin Mi Yoishev Imohen, Lo Nichnasin V'Suda, Ela Im Ken Yoidin Mi Mesav Imohen. Returning to the matter itself, Rav Yehuda says that Rav says witnesses do not sign a document unless they know who is signing with them. That is also taught in Braita. This is what the scrupulous people of Jerusalem would do. They would not sign a document unless they knew who was signing with them, and they would not sit in judgment unless they knew who was sitting with them, and they would not join a meal unless they knew who was reclining or eating with them. Ze poisol dayanoi dechule kol kemine de pasil dayane. The Mishnah teaches this litigant can disqualify the judge chosen by that litigant, and that litigant can disqualify the judge chosen by this litigant. The Gemara asks, Is it in his power to disqualify judges? Amar Rabbi Yochanan be'erkois shebesurya shanu. Aval mumchim lo. Rabbi Yochanan says the sages taught this matter with regard to the laymen's courts in Syria. In those courts, each litigant can refuse to be judged by the judge the other litigant chose, but this halacha is not stated with regard to a court of expert judges. בזמן שמביא ראיו שהם קרובים לפסולין, אבל אם היו כשרים ומומחים מפי בית דין, אינו יכול לפוסלם. מכלל דרבי מאיר מומחין נמי כאומר. The Gemara challenges from the fact that the Mishnah teaches in the latter clause, and the rabbis say, when can one of the litigants disqualify the judges? When he brings evidence that they are related to one of the litigants or to each other, or that they are disqualified from serving as judges for another reason. But if they are fit to serve as judges or are experts ordained by the court, he cannot disqualify them. By inference, Rabbi Meir is also speaking of a court of experts when he says that one can refuse to be judged. Hachi ka'omar. Aval im hayu kesherin na'asu kemumchin mipi beis din ve'enu yachol leposlon. The Gemara answers, this is what the Mishnah is saying. But if they are fit to serve as judges, they are treated like experts ordained by the court, and he cannot disqualify them. Tashima Amru lo leRabbi Meir lo kol hemenu sheposel dayon shemumche leRabbim. The Gemara suggests, come in here, a braita that contradicts this interpretation. The rabbi said to Rabbi Meir, it is not within a litigant's power to disqualify a judge who is accepted as an expert for the public. Apparently, Rabbi Meir disagrees with the rabbis with regard to an expert judge. Ema lo kol heimenu sheposel dayan shehimchuhu rabim alehem. The more answers say that the braita should be amended as follows. It is not within a litigant's power to disqualify a judge whom the public accepted upon themselves as an expert judge for their matters, just as the halacha is concerning the laymen's courts of Syria. Tanya nami hachi ve'oilam poisel ve'hoilech ad shikaved alov beis din shemumche l'rabim divrei Rabbi Meir. That interpretation is also taught in a braita, which teaches a litigant can continuously disqualify the judges chosen by the other litigant forever until the latter accepts to be judged by a court that is accepted as an expert court for the public. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Clearly, Rabbi Meir concedes that one cannot refuse to have the case judged by an expert court. והעדים כמומחים דומי. אמר רבי מאיר, זה פוסל עדו של זה, וזה פוסל עדו של זה. The Gemara asks, but aren't witnesses like experts? In that their standing is independent of their being accepted by the litigants? And yet, Rabbi Meir says, this litigant can disqualify the witnesses of that litigant, and that litigant can disqualify the witnesses of this litigant. Ha'it maralo. Omeresh Lakish. Pe kadosh. Yomar davar zeh. Tini Edo. The Gemara answers, it was stated with regard to the statement of Rabbi Meir that Reish Lakish says, would a holy mouth, meaning that of Rabbi Meir, say this strange statement? That a litigant can prevent a witness from testifying against him? Rather, amend the text of the Mishnah and teach his witness in the singular, meaning that a litigant can disqualify only a witness who testifies alone. But that's not good anyway. You don't need him to disqualify that. He's not. Edo lemai ilem lemamon lachman pasle. Ile shavua ehemone meheman kebartre. The Gemara asks, kebetre. The Gemara asks, for what purpose does his single witness testify? If we say it's to testify about monetary matters, the merciful one already disqualifies him. As by Torah law, the testimony of only one witness is not accepted. That's what I was asking, actually. If it is to render the defendant liable to take an oath that he does not owe the money being claimed, in this regard, the testimony of one witness is deemed credible like two witnesses. The Torah states that if one witness supports the claim of the claimant, the defendant is required to take an oath that he does not owe the money. L'olam l'mamon. Lo tzricha dekabli alei kebeitre. The Gemara answers, actually the purpose of the testimony is to testify about monetary matters, and no, one should not raise that challenge, as this ruling is necessary only in a case where the litigant initially accepted upon himself the single witness as equivalent to two witnesses. Afterward, he retracted his agreement to accept the single witness's testimony as if it were that of two witnesses. Rabbi Meir rules that his retraction is valid and the testimony is not accepted. My kamash melon, dematzi hadarbe, tanina, amar lo, ne'eman alai abba, ne'eman alai avicha, ne'emanin alei shlosha ro'e bakar. Rabbi Meir omer, yachol lachzor bo, v'chachamim omrim, eno yachol lachzor bo. The Gemara asks, what is this teaching us? One can retract this kind of agreement? We learn this in the following Mishnah, 24a. If one of the litigants says to the other, my father is trusted to adjudicate for me, or your father is trusted to adjudicate for me, or three cattle herders who are not proficient in halacha are trusted to adjudicate for me, all of whom are legally disqualified from serving as judges. Rabbi Meir says that the one who made the offer can retract it, and the rabbis say he cannot retract it and must accept their verdict.